The Indonesian province of Aceh, since it achieved special status from the central government, has been trying to implement the full spectrum of Sharia law. But it seems to a certain extent, the central government hasn't been terribly enthusiastic in granting them their wish.
Doctor, what we'd like to know is, what is the Aceh experience in implementing and enforcing hudud? Especially if you look at it, it's like against the grain of secularist Indonesia.
Well, I think I have to explain further on Indonesian's political system as well. Okay, many people say that Indonesia is secular, but basically Indonesia is not secular state, and also not religious state. Indonesia is based on Pancasila, which is recognized religions. Okay, at least now is 5 religions being recognized, and atheist is not lawful to be staying in Indonesia basically. So Indonesia is not secular basically. It has been governed by religious, but it's not an Islamic one. All right. So therefore, Aceh's experience and on the Islamic laws is quite feasible and practical. It's not secular basically. Yeah? And secondly, many people thought that Aceh implementing hudud. Aceh is not yet implementing hudud, and I probably would like to correct as well here that hudud is something that very negative image of Islamic laws. Islamic laws is not hudud, and hudud is not Islamic laws. Hudud is just a part of it. Yeah, more bigger picture basically on Islamic laws called is al-jinayat, or we call it as al-qanun al-jinai. So that is the proper one. But because the media control everything and media quote the thing that has been very much considered news, so they use it as hudud, Islamic laws. Basically it's not. Hudud is just a part of it. There are 3 significance that we have to analyze in Islamic laws in punishment, for example. First, of course, is hudud. The second is qisas and diyat, and the third is ta'zir. The third and the second forgotten. Most of them use it as hudud, as if they are just cutting their hand, cutting the part of the bodies. This is not basically. So what in Aceh basically, if you look at it, the history from after the Reformation in 1998, 1999, for example, Aceh was given special province, and Indonesia also moved toward this decentralizations type of administrations, and therefore Aceh was declared themselves in 2002 to have Islamic laws implemented in the province, but it's not smoothly working. It is only 2003 Aceh implemented the calls perda, peraturan daerah, or in Islamic word they call is qanun. So the qanun, the perda, was endorsed. Yes, in 2003, 3 qanuns was significantly endorsed. The first is on Qanun 12/2003 on al-khamr. Yeah, khamr ni what he calls is alcohols, consumers, traders, you see, all the business involved in alcohols. It has been come to that particular qanun. And then another qanun has been endorsed again 2003, number 13, on gambling, maisir. And then that 2003 as well, last qanun has been endorsed. It is on khalwat, yeah, on mixings between male and females. These only 3 qanuns has been endorsed since 2003, and this is being implemented starting 2005, 2006. Not all Aceh's regency, because in Aceh there are 23, yeah, regencies, but there are, I think, almost only 6 or 5 regencies implemented that perda or the qanun itself. Yeah. I have also to differentiate between qanun and others, yeah, because in Islamic laws usually you are talking about al-fiqh. Fiqh is the practical Islamic laws. the ideas, the opinions on many items was basically called fiqh. But that fiqh, if it has been endorsed and becoming enacted, then becoming qanon. So no dispute on what is basically opinions on that issues, but when it is enacted, it's only that opinion that is endorsed becoming a positive laws. This is most important thing. And again, we have to emphasize that many people misunderstood on Islamic laws as if it's only jinayat, it's only for hudud or qisas and ta'zir. But there are Islamic laws on worship, for example, on muamalat or transactions, economics, for example, and there is also Islamic laws on marriage institutions, or fiqh munakahat. Okay, and finally there is Islamic Islamic laws on crime, that is called jinayah, that is very famous in media, called hudud, as if it is a negative one. But until 2009, that qanun that I said, the three qanun, has been somehow upgraded and endorsed the full Islamic criminal laws, which has been endorsed by the member of parliament in the level of province, but is not yet signed by the governor until now. So therefore, that law is not yet inactive. What they are using still, they are using a qanun number 12, 13 and 14, which is on maisir, gambling, on alcohol, and on khalwat. Only three are now in practice, and not all the regencies also implementing it. Only few among the 23 regencies in Aceh, I think less than 6. Banda Aceh, of course, Langsa, of course, doing it, but the rest are not yet.
So this, at the moment, is very similar to Kelantan, for instance.
Yep.
With the three qanuns
Yep.
that are enacted at the moment.
Yeah. But if you look at the Kelantan, Aceh, quite different probably, because Kelantan was since long time ago endorsed that particular qanun, but then it's being stagnant in the federal state, because that qanun also need to be endorsed by the federal state, federal government. In Indonesia as well, I think some of members of parliament, they said that we don't need to get a signature from the governor, as long as it has been endorsed by the member of parliament in the province, that it is to be in the practice. But so far, I think there are many sponsors, many vested interests. So therefore, until now, that qanun has been enacted, but not yet in practice. They are using only three qanuns, especially on jarimah. Jarimah in our language, is in English, is a crime. That is called jarimah of maisir, gambling, khalwat, mixings between man and female, and then the first one is what you call alcohols. So this is most important thing. In regard to a comprehensive Islamic laws, definitely it is a hard time for Indonesia as well, because when come to the executions, the court, for example, of course this court can execute, that is Islamic court. Previously was peradilan agama, especially for the marriage matters, estate planning matters, not for crime matters. So in Aceh, the one who control and execute this one is still task transferring the peradilan agama, like Islamic court, to the more on Syariah court. This is the most important transformations of the court system, for example. But again, it is in the first level. But the second level, in the case of appeal, for example, for the case that has been what he calls decided by the court, but the person involved, for example, would like to appeal, they need to appeal to the center court, that is in Jakarta. And therefore, one of the judge in Mahkamah Agung, for example, in the highest court in Jakarta, they said that Islamic court in Aceh must be suit to the court in Jakarta as well, in order to provide appeal court. Otherwise, the person involved or the criminal will not have opportunity to have appeal, because it's still lower court. They need to appeal to the highest court. That is in Jakarta, definitely.
So it seems like if it goes to the Syariah court, the religious court in Aceh, but the appeal will be heard by a non-religious court.
This is the problem, and therefore I think one of the reasons why the governor is not yet signing that laws yet. This has been endorsed, of course, by the member of parliament, but it's not yet signed by the governor, so therefore cannot move to the higher level. And this is, I think, what happened in Kelantan as well. So the state, for example, they may endorse it, but when it comes to the federal government, they did not, with regard to the appeal matters. Because if you don't give appeal, then it's not a justice to the criminal itself. Because in Islam, I think I have to talk again, the purpose of justice, we have to look at it in two things. Okay, the first is legal justice, I mean the court itself, legal court, everything, but the substance of the court itself is to establish a justice to all humans, not only the Muslims, not only to the citizens, but all humans. And therefore, Qanun, like jinayat, for example, is not the end. It is an instrument. It is a means. Okay. If you look at his story, for example, the stories of the Prophet and the Khulafa Rashidah, for example, the pious Caliph, many people who committed the crime was not in the charge because of certain contact and certain reasons. Okay. So therefore, again, implementing Islamic laws, Islamic criminal laws especially, it is not the purpose to take revenge, to cut the criminals, but it's basically to contain the people, how the people will behave. Like the example in Aceh, after the implementing this Hudud, Qanun, yeah, 12, 13 and 15, a criminal was really reduced. The people are really controlling themselves. If they did it, for example, they did it privately, did not do it in the public. So that is also some of the stability and order for the public as well. So this is the end of Islamic laws, not to cut but to provide stability. Usually people confuse it. Oh, if we implement Islamic laws, then people will not have hands. You see, this is the most misconception on the Islamic laws.
In terms of acceptance of the people, I mean, in terms of population makeup, maybe is it correct for me to assume that the province of Aceh is like 95% or even 100% Muslim? So in terms of acceptance, how have they accepted it? Are there any groups that are opposed to the full spectrum of Islamic law?
Definitely there are pro and cons. And if you look at the sociological percentage, how the demographics, for example, in Aceh, we can look at it that of course almost 90% of the populations are Muslims. And you have to look at it again, the historical background of Aceh, where Islamic law was implemented before. And therefore, to me, though there are groups who are opposed the projections on implementation of the Islamic laws, for example, but the people want it. Okay, and we have to look at it now. Is in democratic system, for example, we look at it, how many percentage of people who want it. And it is clear to me that these all representative members of parliaments were elected by the people, and this is the one who brought the Islamic laws in the province government, for example. And therefore, if you look at the rationale, definitely people in Aceh, most of them accepting it, because some, according to the survey as well, they enjoy the stability and order that has been provided by that system. Though probably or probably 20% or 15% of the population still complaining, you see, because of against human rights and so forth and so forth, because of ignorance, because of lack of knowledge on understanding the Islamic laws. But those who are living in that particular locations, they enjoy it because they have more peaceful stability, you see, and order. This is most important thing.
Is there anything else you want to say about Syariah implementation in Indonesia and how you see it in the future? Will there be more and more provinces that are going to take in Syariah?
Definitely. If you look at it, the impact of the implementation of the Syariah in Aceh, for example, where the people in the early stage are confronting and rejecting the ideas, but afterward it's becoming normal, and in fact providing more stability, more order, more organized community. So people will be interested in it. But my message here is that it's not easy to implementing a Sharia law. We have to provide the context first, the people first. People should be really taught on the Islamic laws. What is the Islamic laws? What is basically the impact of it? This is the most important thing. Without proper education, the force to reject the Islamic laws will be bigger and bigger. But with the deliberations, consultations, educations, people will look at it. I'm not talking about the Muslims, as well as non-Muslims. They will understand it because it was history in Indonesian independence, for example. The Christians, the Catholics, they recognize on the Piagam Jakarta, on the Jakarta Charter, after have deliberation, Islam looking for justice, not to punishing people, but justice. And therefore this one of the representatives from the Christians community, they agreed. If it is for justice to humans, then we accept it. So the rejection to the Islamic laws basically is because of ignorance, because of the bias and prejudice, not because of the nature of the Islamic laws. And therefore, to me, in order to have that implemented Islamic laws in anywhere in the world, for example, we have to prepare the culture of the people. The people should be educated on that. And of course, education is not informal education only. There are medias, rules on educations. There are also new invented educational instruments. And my advice as well to the media should provide balanced information on what is going on, what is basically the nature of the Islamic laws, not tarnishing the image of the Islamic principle as well as Islamic criminal laws.
Eksekusi cambuk kembali diberlakukan di bumi Serambi Mekah. Jumat siang tadi 3 warga terbukti melanggar kanun atau Perda Aceh sehingga dihukum cambuk 2 hingga 8 kali. Eksekusi hukum cambuk ini dilaksanakan di depan Masjid Al-Munawarah, Kota Janto, Aceh Besar, selesai sholat Jumat. Ketiga terhukum dieksekusi cambuk karena berjualan makanan pada bulan Ramadan lalu. Perempuan berinisial MRN ini dicambuk sebanyak 3 kali, sedangkan temannya dicambuk 2 kali. Seorang pria berinisial F dihukum cambuk karena berjudi di warung internet dikenakan hukuman 8 kali cambuk. Hukuman cambuk terhadap warga paling gampang dilaksanakan. Pihak Satpol PP Aceh dan Dinas Syariat Islam Aceh berdalih bahwa hukuman berlaku bagi semua warga negara.
We know that the Aceh government are also have passed the Sharia bill, and they are now Aceh now is or certain parts of Aceh has now we have here reports on how they are they are actually having this moral policing and dragging people out in the street because of suspecting them of bad behavior in private, and what do you call that, taking off their clothes just to shame them, because a lot of people, Islamists, have been saying that the hudud punishment is good because it is to show to the public, you know, a lesson. We have past political leaders saying that it is good that there is amputation because it gives satisfaction for the victim or the victim's family. It's good that we carry on this kind of punishment because then there will be lesser crime. But we are saying that that is not the spirit of Quran. Actually, last year in Ramadan, where 2 women were lashed for selling rice during the day. Now, you question again, is this what Sharia is all about? Is it even divine now? Because everyone said that we have to implement Sharia because it's God's law and this is what God's want. Do you think, we question again the authorities in Aceh, do you think God wants 2 women to be lashed for selling rice during the day in Ramadan? So where is the divinity in all this?